And good morning. This is Ed in San Diego, California, and welcome again to Global TV Talk Show, a unit of globalbusinessnews.net. And welcome back to the studio. Here is Irma V Balian, recently relocated herself, her family, uh, from the Mideast to Montreal, beautiful Montreal. Welcome to this side of the pond.
Hi, Ed. Hi, Ed. Nice to see you again. Long time.
Yes, you're only 3,000 miles away this time.
Yes, not that far, but still, at least we're in the same continent.
Yeah, that's cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah.
Okay, so you're the creator and author and leader of a famous company called ProtocolWise, right?
Yes, correct.
Okay, and very briefly, why don't you just give us some background about this and then tell us about um, well, I'll ask you questions about your relocation into Montreal.
Yes,
So,
right. Right. So my company is about consultancy. I provide training and consulting to leaders across cultures and cultural competency to corporate leaders. And how this company came to be is because I always wanted to see how to do things in the right way to the right person, in the right approach, with the right approach. And that is how I combined my background in protocol and diplomacy into what I do now for corporations across cultures. And I love doing what I do. And I think my intercultural background helps me a lot to be able to relate to people who are in situations where they deal with people who think differently, or who think that they don't get along with such a certain person. But in reality, it's all about learning the right tools and having the right training to have your approach a little bit modified or improved in order to know how to communicate better.
well, that's a very sophisticated statement that you made, and the meaningfulness of it goes deep and wide. And everybody in the world who is involved in global business should actually have a training by you. Maybe they'll watch this and learn something from it and then
Yeah.
be in touch with you. So let me ask you about your own recent relocation into Montreal. That's an international community by itself, not just because of the historic agreement to provide French culture, French atmosphere over English within the same country in Quebec. And this is right up your alley. It's a perfect
Yes.
situation for you to live your brand.
It's true. It's true. And because I'm French educated, my children are French educated, and I'm very much in tune with the North American culture. And I've lived in California. I'm very much familiar and comfortable with North American way of doing things. So we had decided to move to North America, and in particular to Montreal in Canada, because it does have that French flair to it. And, we would still continue with our bilingual way of doing things, because I don't want my children to lose the languages they know, in particular French. And I think Quebec, in a way, it combines the North American and European culture. So I think it's a good match for us. My kids are very happy; they're already integrated, and we really love it. We were really
That's nice.
forward to a longer journey here. Yes.
Well, someday I'm going to visit, and
Oh yes,
we'll
please
have
let
a
me know.
live meeting in Montreal.
Oh, would love that. Yes,
Right. Maybe help me put it on, be a speaker and
I would
uh,
love that. Yeah, let me
make an
know.
introduction. And we'll
All right.
plan it for a warmer time.
Okay, no worries.
I'm
I understand.
here on the Mexican border in the south.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, in that sense, I totally get you. Enjoy it. It's really nice.
Yeah, yeah. So you'll be learning, if you already haven't, all about the free trade agreement between U.S., Canada, Mexico, and
Mhm.
it's really a huge economic vehicle.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
And it's for the world because they could ship things into either LA or Vancouver or Montreal is a little more difficult, but certainly Mexico.
yeah.
And
That's
then the
totally
trucks and trains bring it across all of North America,
fine. Mhm.
um, if one was so inclined to do that. And of course, it
Mhm.
works the other way too. So good luck. And let's talk about preparedness for business people,
Mhm.
men, women, doesn't matter.
Mhm.
And yeah, for the new world, the post-pandemic business world that we're entering into now, not to mention 2023.
Mhm.
But post-pandemic, things are going to be a little bit different because, remote and hybrid is here to stay. And a way of communicating like this has certainly matured over the last 3 years for me. We have produced
Definitely.
552 something, I've lost track, programs.
Wow, that's
And
amazing.
we've generated an audience that we've never had before.
Yeah. Mhm. Amazing.
According to Google Analytics, our audience is approaching 250,000. I don't know if we'll get there or when, but it's somewhere between 202,000 and 210 right now.
That's a big
And
success.
so
Big
that
achievement.
is
Yeah.
allowing me to pick up and go forward beyond the crashing and burning of our live conference business, which was forced to stop doing business on or about March 1, 2020, because of the COVID.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah.
And so we started almost right away trying to learn how to do Zoom. And
Yes.
so, and I thank you for
COVID.
being on our programs, across that time. So now we want to go forward and take what we've learned. And I want to invite you to talk, maybe do a mini keynote here for a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, or whatever you're comfortable with, about the role of your experience in life. I'm going to read this here. Um, you had an interview which was published in Women in Leadership Foundation, and you dedicate the content of the article to all your professional network,
Mm.
especially to those who are have been recently moved from one country into another.
Mm.
And in the bottom of that, your subtitle is "Successes and Challenges of Immigrating to Canada." That's your own
Mm.
story. And what have you learned about that you'd like to talk about that the audience could really go deeper quickly? You highlight cultural intelligence, people skills, corporate coaching, cultural diversity, culture matters, corporate leadership, multicultural diversity and inclusion. That's it. that's
Yeah,
that's the
that's
ball
it.
game. So anything you'd like to focus in on the importance of, well, all of it's important, but
Yeah.
learning about cultures is
Yes.
critical, isn't it?
Oh, yes, yes. And the first thing that anyone needs to be aware of before they go to understanding or trying to improve their relationship with people is first and foremost to understand themselves. The self-awareness is very important. When I do trainings, the first reaction people have is like, well, wait a minute, I'm not here to learn about myself. I want to improve my relationship and my communication. But the thing is, by learning about your own communication style, by learning about how you communicate, you're going to learn about your communication with others. And by that, I mean that you have to know what is your style. Are you someone who likes to confront people? Are you confrontational? Are you someone who likes to say things directly to people, their face? Or you're someone who likes to be more diplomatic with your relationship? You don't necessarily have to throw it to their face. You think that is not very courteous. What is your style? Which one do you prefer? People don't realize this about themselves. They're
Right.
always busy.
No idea.
Yeah, I mean, they're always busy saying, oh, that's how she talked to me, or that's how he said to me, and I didn't appreciate. But before that, know yourself. Know what it is that you prefer. How do you like to communicate? And sometimes people don't realize that, some people like to give a lot of details when they're talking. They go into the explanation and really the details, every single point. And while others are just into just giving you the global picture. And they think that that's enough. And if you're someone who likes details, you're not going to appreciate that type of conversation, right? So these are differences. They're not necessarily good or bad. Neither this is better nor the other one. But if you have those awarenesses, that you will be able to, okay, you would know where you stand, and you would pinpoint where the other person stands. And that's how you are gonna begin. That's the beginning of your cultural competency and the realization of the differences. Because first and foremost, you have to be interculturally competent in order to integrate with other cultures. And for that, you have to have these awarenesses. Another thing that really resonates with me, and I think with everyone who just moves, is to just have empathy. When you move somewhere, first of all, don't start by doing comparisons. That kills you. That really does. If you're someone who compares where you come from with where you are now, you're like, oh, but that's not how we used to do it. That's not the way. Well, you're here now. Focus on how you're going to do things here. Respect the rule of the rule of the land, and try to understand it. Have an open mind, and be curious, and approach the matter with humility. Because that helps you drift a little bit apart from feeling superior, because we all have that. We're used to our culture. We think that it's better. But in reality, no culture is better than the other one. It's just different. And different doesn't mean bad, doesn't mean good. It's just different. So, have that awareness, have that open-mindedness, because it helps you become flexible. And once you are flexible, you would be able to know how to maneuver those differences, and when to say, what to say, to whom to say, the way you want to say it.
So that is a great opening. Let's go a little deeper. It's almost like putting self-control to work for you. Some people just talk to hear themselves talk in a situation that they think others would want to know. But it's not the case, especially in a cross-cultural situation where it's almost forbidden to say certain things about yourself before you're have closer relations with the person that you're talking with. It's almost an intrusion, like, why am I hearing this?
Yeah, just have that awareness to know how to approach people. It's not necessarily forbidden, but it's misinterpreted sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, people you would have a certain intention or a certain intention in your mind. That's how you want it, and then you get misinterpreted. So in order to avoid these, it's very important to be sensitive to the differences and know that there are many different ways of doing the same thing. And
so this is not necessarily a sales pitch for your business, but of course it does have you are a resource for people just by watching some of our previous shows, and this one too. So give us an idea of when you were talking to that group, about your successful
Mm.
or how to be more successful,
Mm.
perhaps in an international relocation. So it takes a lot of money and it takes a lot of planning,
Yes.
and this and the ways people set up themselves in advance is very similar to planning a business project, isn't it?
Yes, it is. It is. But I'm not sure. I'm not sure what your question is, Ed. Sorry.
Okay, no, this is a perfect example of cross-cultural, and
Yes,
I'm
and
suffering here trying to figure out what to say, but
exactly. But I just wanted to clarify before I start speaking. You see, yeah, that's
yeah. So yeah, this is a
wanted to
nice
clarify.
to and fro right here. Okay, so let me ask again. Um, not everybody has an engineering structural development,
Mm,
project development mindset or
mm,
experience.
mm.
So, how do you tell people, how did you tell people in your speech
Mm.
uh, about how to prepare to make this giant move?
Mm. Um,
That plan resources, plan time,
yes.
organize not just visas and
No,
everything.
well, it just starts first of all by doing a lot of research, background research.
Uh-huh. Good.
And because I was convinced of where I wanted to move, so I focused on the positive. When you're going to move, people talk, and even when you are having these professional conversations, a lot of negativity comes out. So you're gonna you need to focus on what you want to get out of those conversations. You need to focus on what is relevant to you. And because sometimes you tend to drift according to what you are hearing, but focus on that. And for me, I think what I decided is once I decided that I'm moving to Canada, I literally decided to fall in love with Canada, you know and really that helps you in many ways, because um, there is no utopia anywhere in the world, but you make your own utopia, and you convince yourself intelligently, not just and by reasoning, what is it that you want to get out of life, what is it that you want to get out of your move. And obviously if you're not convinced, you're not going to move there. So that these are important approaches. And before moving, I made a lot of connections already. That helped me a lot, because I didn't want to get to somewhere and, oh, okay, okay, well, now what do I do? No, I did a lot of preparation beforehand, a lot of research, a lot of connections. And I did some volunteer work beforehand, because I wanted to get more of the touch of how things are done here. No matter how much you know about a place, you would be surprised how much you don't know once you move to that place.
So, for instance, if in your prior country, you knew where the specific art museum was or the specific
Yeah,
park that you
yeah.
liked, and so you look for the same kind of experience in, say, Montreal, and the weather has something to do with it, but and you would see and feel how the Montreal Art Museum is
Oh,
done.
yes. Yes, a lot of that. And the work culture, even if it's international, even if you meet people who work with international companies, but there is this local culture that you need to get acquainted with, and that comes with an open mindset and flexibility. And just I said this before, but I think it's very important not to make comparison with where you come from or what you are used to. Just focus on what you are learning, and appreciate and enjoy it, because it's different, which means that it is in a way enriching your knowledge, and it's also giving you a competitive edge to knowing more how to, behave with people from that point on. And I think what I would prefer in a way is in corporations, if immigrants or newcomers are not necessarily treated as oh, you're an immigrant, you wouldn't know this. Oh, but sometimes people do it, without thinking about it. And obviously, when you're an immigrant, you probably have an accent in the language, in the native language. But that doesn't mean you are less professional. It doesn't mean you know less. And detecting an accent in someone's speech should not be to that person's disadvantage. I'm talking in a corporate setting,
Yes.
And sometimes people who are newcomers, they are so nervous, they want to blend in, they want to show that they know. Sometimes they don't understand something just because of the accent, not because they are not competent, and they get intimidated. So this is where the effort to be intentionally inclusive comes in. And it's a fine line between treating people inclusively and not making them feel that they are different. That's why we are making the effort. It's very sensitive, because when you are a newcomer or an immigrant, you would know these differences, but when you are a local, you don't realize. So this is tricky in a way, because you want to be inclusive, but at the same time, you don't want them to feel that you are including them because they are different. So it is, it's a sensitive point, but it's important, because when I was writing that article, I did a lot of research. I spoke to a lot of newcomers or people who are here on contract. I said, what is it that you want to see different? What, I mean, they're all happy, but what is it that you want to see as an improvement? And they all said the same thing. It's like, I don't want to be considered less professional, or I don't want them to pinpoint that I'm an outsider. And sometimes we do that unintentionally. We pinpoint that they're outsiders by trying to include them in a way that we think that's how we should do it. So that's the tricky part that we can work on. And the language is a huge deal, which
The use of language, the use of certain words, or where
yes,
the
definitely.
accent
The
should be.
accent, yeah, the accent is very important, and the slang. When you are a local, you don't realize that people who learn a language, the slang is not the first thing they learn, right? They learn the basics, and sometimes the slang is misinterpreted because these are words that they know, but the context is different, right? So people need to be aware of these, and the rhythm the pace has to be slower, but not necessarily too slow, because you don't want to look or seem condescending, or in a way, or raise your voice when you're talking to someone who has a different accent. Because I noticed that when I've noticed that in airports, when people notice that someone is a foreigner and they want to speak English, suddenly the officer or the airport staff raises the volume or their voice to speak. I mean, if someone is speaking with an accent, doesn't mean that they are deaf or they don't understand. It's just that they have a different accent, and this is something that I wanted to address, because I see that a lot. People automatically raise their voice when they're talking to foreigners, but
and that is offensive. It can be offensive.
Yes, it can come across as offensive. It can come across as like, okay, you don't understand, so or you don't have the intelligence, certain intelligence to comprehend what I'm saying. So I mean, people don't do that intentionally, but that's something that needs to be raised. because this is an unconscious bias. And a lot of times we don't realize about our biases because we think that they are the right approach, but actually they are all based on our values and our upbringing and our experiences. So that makes the difference.
So how do you teach this? I mean, we're talking about it, and that
Hmm.
in itself is instruction to my audience here. But how do you teach it without being offensive, saying or implying that I need that instruction because I've just done something stupid or wrong?
Oh yeah, it's an important question, and the thing is, withhold judgment and lead by example. If I expect you not to be judgmental, first and foremost, I should not be judging you while I'm training you, right? And practice is the most important and the most effective way of learning. So we do a lot of practice, we do a lot of role play, and awareness is very important.
So being intentional, that's a hot phrase these days, meaning show or explain the purpose of whatever you're doing. Be intentional. That's what that means, right?
Yes, be intentional and be truthful and be present. When you are doing something, show the goodwill that you have. Intentional means in that sense what I mean by intentional, and make the effort and show your goodwill intention.
So in international business and international, let's say, diplomacy, cross-border business, trying to reduce tensions, geopolitical tensions, being intentional is like really super important, right?
Oh, yes. Being intentional in that way is make sure that you are not misinterpreted, and you are sensitive to the differences. You are sensitive to the to things that are done in a different way for you, but have the intention to make it as clear as possible and as transparent as possible and respectful as possible.
Wow, this has been a lesson already, and we're just scratching the surface. We're talking with Irma Balian. So what would be the website? ProtocolWise.com?
ProtocolWise.com, yes. And I'm on LinkedIn for the audience who is on that platform already. And they can reach me on social media platform as well. So I'm only a connection away.
So the name Balian is Balian.
Yes, and Vartanian is my maiden name, Vartanian.
Got it. Okay, so let's talk about what you have coming up. Are you booked for speaking tours and other programs
Oh
coming
yes,
up?
I have a lot of projects. I'm keeping them as a surprise, but very soon going to announce them. Very exciting things doing in Canada related to Canadian culture. And there's the book actually that we have talked about. It took a little bit of time to get published, but we are more than 21 experts writing a book together about, and that's the name of the book is Etiquette Around the World. And you have an expert from different cultures writing about a certain country. So there is that coming up, and I have a lot of articles and other exciting projects that I'm going to talk about very soon with you, Ed.
Well, this is great. I welcome you back weekly or monthly or whenever you
Thank
can,
you. Thank you.
considering
Thank you.
your busy schedule. Thanks for being my special guest again on
Always nice
Global
to be with
TV.
you. Thank you
Yeah.
very much for having me.
And welcome to North America. And
Thank you.
really, I'm serious. I'm going to put on a live conference Global Business News Conference in Montreal, and would love to begin talking with you about that.
Oh,
And
wow. Love that. Yeah,
that would
we'll
be
do
great.
that.
I'll be back to you. Okay,
Thank
everybody. Thank you for being our audience on globaltvtalkshow.com. Thank you,
thank you.
Irma.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Bye.